Hi, everybody. Welcome to Interesting as Fuck. And we are trying not to start off with laughing, but apparently, um, not not doing great. But hey, this is what happens when we record at night and we've had some cocktails.
We're
So
real. We're real. This is what you're gonna
real AF, real
real AF.
AF. And speaking of drinking and talking to people, which, we opened with this last week and we, kind of told you where we're going to go this week. We are going to make this episode all about the dating scene, how to date, what to say, all that good stuff. We're going to go into the backstories of our each of our meet cutes as they're called in books or movies. um, and I want to kind of take a pause and kind of maybe tell the audience why we thought of this topic particularly. I think number one, I'm a nerd. I was reading Bloomberg Business Week, and there's an article a couple weeks ago that, let me get it, but it's basically called the Dating Recession. And what it's basically, the premise is that COVID has left 13 million people single in the last since COVID started. So there are
13
more
it
single
was 13.3 additional people.
additional that are
Yeah.
single. So how economists basically do the math is basically they go, oh, we historically know that there's many single people because of their tax returns. And then you kind of, delve into it more from a survey perspective. And then COVID basically moved us to having 13 more single people. And of course, international crowd. This is for the US only. I have not seen any data for other countries, but I have a sneaking suspicion it's probably somewhat the same, that there's been an increase. And one of the things that the article obviously talks about, because it's Bloomberg Business Week, talks about the effects on the economy, right? So less people are going out to eat. Obviously there's inflation and there's a lot of things to, talk about, but people are eating in more. People are not going to bars. People are not going to theater events. So they're not meeting people. So they're not meeting new people and they're not dating. Um, and when they do like maybe other things. But I think, you know, Elaine and I were talking about this, and this is kind of the onus as to why we started this podcast, is that we realized that a lot of people, since COVID and since the advent of more technology, more instant communication via cell phone, via IM, whatever you call it, that people have forgotten to how to talk to each other face to face. And I think this article and this data kind of brought that back up, to say, hey, let's delve into dating. And so that is our topic for today. And I'm really excited. And I think I'm going to turn it over to you, Elaine, to tell us about your dating story, since we're going on a tangent
Sure.
first, because we have
Yeah.
two different stories. And I think they really show the way that people meet, and people still meet this way, I think.
Yeah. That's a great point. They're still meeting this way, the old-fashioned way, the newer way, as some boomers might look at it. But let's just throw this out from the beginning. Like, dating sucks. Like, dating's not fun.
Sucks.
Like like dating's not fun. Some people like it, but I don't necessarily like dating. But my husband and I met on eHarmony. Oh my gosh, 11 years ago. Coming up here, which is insane to me. Definitely my longest relationship. Um, but yeah, it was just one of those things. The area that we live in is not known for its dating scene, and I knew that I didn't want to date someone who did what I do, because there are very particular personalities in people that do what we do. Just leave it at that. So I just, my circle was small. I always said, like, our city is as big or as small as you want to make it. It can be very incestuous within the industry you're in. or the job that you're in or whatever. So, it after a while it can feel kind of small. And, it also was kind of, I was in my late 20s and I was like, I had my routine and I loved my routine. And so when I was going out to the bars or I was going out to eat with my girls or even with guy friends or like whatever, like I was there with them. I wasn't going out to meet people because that means I was just out with people as like a wing person, right? And not paying attention to the conversation we were having. And we were kind of all at the point where we're like, no, we go out because we want to hang out together or try this new bar or like do whatever. So I wasn't going out to find someone, but I knew I wanted to find someone, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And so I did turn to online dating, but I had tried, Match.com previously, and that was fine, but it obviously had not worked. And this was years and years before I met my husband, but and things like Tinder and Hinge were like brand spanking new. Like they were this is gonna age me. They were still, the intention of them was to meet the person. But like they were still so new that I wasn't ready to try it. I, had heard about eHarmony and I was really truly looking for like a life partner out of this. And so I went to eHarmony. I spent like a solid week. I saved Microsoft Word like documents because the questions are so long and you really have to think about it. I had Excel spreadsheets to keep like, and I don't say this because I was like some hot shit or something, but like you're dating and the whole purpose of this is to go on multiple dates, right? So I was keeping spreadsheets to be like, okay, you know, Tom, and like, here's where he's from and here's what he does. And here were the funny things I liked about him. And, Dave and, like just whatever it was. So I could keep it straight, right? In case like there were second or third or whatever dates. But like our first date, was 7 hours. We shut the bar down. We just talked and it was crazy because um I liked he was one of the first matches that was ever sent to me. I loved his profile. It was great. We started chatting through the email, the mail system, and then they're like, "All right, well, you guys have done this for a while, so it's up to you if you want to exchange emails or text message or whatever." We talked for a month before we were actually able to get together. And I think that was super helpful because we kind of got to know each other and each other's personalities and sense of humor is like outside of the online platform. Um, and I was able to get a couple of first dates out of the way to get over that anxiety. Um, and then our first date was amazing. And then literally 2 weeks later, we were like, we're good, right? Like we can get off this shit. Like we can get off this. So we did. And literally the rest is history. So we met on eHarmony. But our first date was awesome. I don't remember ever laughing that hard on a first date or any date for that matter. But yeah, that's our dating story. And the two of us get paid to talk for a living, basically. And even still in that situation, like it was still hard because it's just dating is awkward and it's you're just trying to get to know people. And I think, but dating has this like extra level to it where, I don't know, it's just crazy, but
Yeah, I think the issue with dating, right? You're trying to get to somebody to like you. And that gets to, and that gets to the deepest insecurities that we have. Like, the Sally Field, and I'm sorry, you youngins. Sally Field, this actress. Look it
Queen.
up. She's got there's a gif about it where she wins an award and the first words out of her mouth are, "You like me. You really like me." Right? And I think it's such a great line because it just hits at the human experience to try to connect to something. Because it's in a way, like dating is your deepest inner thoughts wondering if somebody either has them or agrees with them. And that's
Absolutely.
really hard because again, not everybody's going to agree with you all the time, but first dating you're putting yourself in such a vulnerable place that anything they say that you can see as a slight against you, you're going to take extremely personal. And I
Yeah.
think that's why dating is so hard is because you're trying to be liked and don't want to like don't want to like the other person more.
Yeah, and I will say one of the, like, the biggest things that I learned through the process, and this'll I just wanna put this out, like, right at the beginning in case you're thinking about, you, our listeners, because clearly Linda is, spoken for, and we'll get to her story next.
Okay,
Um
no, but no, that me, I'm spoken for because I'm speaking for myself. Yes.
Oh, yes, of course. Wow, I should remove that from my lexicon. See? Learn something new. Yeah, man, the hand gestures I'm getting right now, listeners, my goodness. I deserve it. I deserve it. I deserve it. I walked into it. Should taken? What should no, what should I use? What should we use?
I don't know what we should
You
do.
know,
She's with someone.
she's with someone. It's
I
complicated.
feel
No, I'm
like
totally good. I'm totally good. Okay, what
it
about
is complicated. Look, if you're not with somebody and it's complicated, you're fucking doing it wrong. It's
I love
complicated
it.
all the
I love it.
fucking time. All the time.
That is accurate. But I say you universally, you are listeners. If you're thinking about online dating, do not answer those questions in the way you think that someone else wants to read the answers. Answer them for your goddamn self because you'll start off completely wrong and it will match you with the wrong people if you're not answering for yourself. So we heard from tons of people that was like, oh, eHarmony, oh, that didn't work for me. And they would just, people would just start talking voluntarily, start these stories where we on the drive home or whatever would be like, well, that person didn't answer. We know this person. Like, that's not them. They weren't answering the question for themselves. They were answering in the way that they think a woman or a man that they're trying to attract would want to hear the answer. And it's like, that's ridiculous. So answer for yo goddamn self is my
It's
lesson.
those yeah, and those questionnaires. So I did also online dating, and maybe one time we'll talk about my insane first date stories because I got some
Ooh,
doozies.
I have one too. We'll save that because that would be a really,
Yeah, we'll maybe like do it at the end or blooper reel or whatever. But so I was on Match.com for a little while. I was on OkCupid. I was never on eHarmony. But yeah, I think those questionnaires were built by people who were smart enough to go, if you answer these correctly, it actually gives you a much better sense of self. And that is and that is how a relationship sort of starts. It doesn't start with you pretending you're somebody else. It starts with yourself. And any successful relationship is that way. You have to be yourself.
yeah. Why would you present something like if you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody? Why would you present something that is not what you're selling them?
Well, and I think that, and it comes back to kind of the early thing. And I think the article sort of touches upon this, and we'll put the link of the article on it, but on the episode. I think the main thing is getting together with somebody has a lot of implications, right? Do we buy a house? Do we buy a con? So there's the article kind of put it's the pressure of becoming an adult. And I think, and I think people are not ready like we were like, and I think this has changed with from generation to generation, right? Like the dream was to have a house and get married and have kids, like back, when our parents were younger and even before that. And then now I think with our generation and the generations that's shifting. What is your dream? You don't want to be alone, but that doesn't mean marriage. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
kids. That doesn't mean buying a house because it's obviously extremely expensive. So I think there's a lot of that. But then there's a lot of, I think, insecurities into worthiness, right? Um, I think the way we've raised, like how I was raised, for example, let's just say how I was. I'm constantly trying to prove my worth. And that's really hard when you're going and dating people. I think right now you have a lot of people that were told they were worthy all the time. And that's really hard to go out
Yeah.
and to date somebody, right? It just goes, well, yeah, that person's being stupid. And you're like, "Nah, maybe they just don't like, maybe they just don't like you." And that's okay. I think the
Yep.
concept of not being liked all the time is important to know. But I think being honest, again, to Lane's point, being honest with that, because it's going to teach you a little bit more about yourself as well. So I think it's really good to know that. So to that end, I will start mine. So
Yeah.
I was actually in like a moment, like I dated, like I had fun. Like it was, I wasn't looking for anything serious. It was like going around, like I went out, I hung out with my friends. It was 2000, but yeah, 2009-ish, something like that. And I was at an event. I'm not going to say what it was, when it was, whatever. But it was quintessential the area where we live in, right? So it was just it was just a bunch of
Nerds.
pretentious nerds, pretentious nerds that were going to an event to celebrate blah 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 blah. Okay? And I had gone by myself. And I think we've talked about my propensity of going to places by myself because I just don't care. And I just don't. I'm just like, I'm not gonna let not going to places. And so I was invited by like a certain group, and I had seen them. I had seen the group; they were there, and I go and this is a big group, and I knew one person from something else, and I walk up to them, and there's a big group, and I'm like, oh hi, how are you? And then I met everybody else, and my future husband was there, and so we started chatting. And I think within maybe 5 minutes, I was like, I'm here by myself, so you're gonna be stuck with me now. And let
Little
this
did he
be
know.
the record. Let this be record that I'm always right, always. And he also had this like really weird allergy, and I kept like like my anxiety was like, oh my god, this man's gonna die, like he's gonna get anaphylactic shock because it was a really weird allergy. And I was like, I asked all of the waiters, I was like, does this have this in it? Does this have this in it? And then afterwards we went out to the place that I told you earlier that used to be something else. And we hung out, and then we like took the red line home, took the subway home, and he stole my library book, and he said, because I'm a nerd again, I was reading a book, and he was like, I'm gonna take this because that way we can see each other again. And so
I love that story so much, but like y'all have heard, we love stupid shows and we'll quote them.
stu-
All I can
yes,
think every time you tell this is he George Costanza to you.
he
Costanza. Like he stole the clock so that, you know,
yep,
you'd have to
he
see him
did,
again. Or left the muskrat hat at your
indeed,
apartment
he
so you
did,
don't again. But I love it. I love that
he
story
did it.
so much.
And I think this is the key, where also something else is that we had a common interest. We were there for a
Mhm.
specific purpose, where we were talking about, a policy thing, and that is what interested us. And so I think, which comes back to online dating in a way, if you're not talking about what you like and what you're passionate about and what you really enjoy, rather than saying, hey, I like, is this how you say it? Chapel Rowan? Is that how you say it? I don't know. I'm mispronouncing their name
I
probably.
wish they could see my face because I'm like, I don't know. I
Okay.
think you're right. I think you're
Okay.
right.
I don't. And so I think like, if you say you like her because everybody else likes her, but you don't, and then somebody's a super
Right.
fan and they drag, eventually that's not going to work. Right.
Right.
Um, but my biggest dating advice, and I think this is not, people don't think about it, is can you live with the worst trait that they have?
Yes.
And people
Yeah.
don't think about that because they're like, "Oh, I really, really like all of this." And I'm like, "You're always gonna like that. That's not the problem. The problem is what's the worst thing that they're like that they have? What's the worst trait that they have? What is the yeah? Are you
Yeah.
gonna live with that?"
And people want, like, we're not even saying, we could throw out a term as simple as red flag, right?
Right.
And yes, like, don't ignore red flags. And
Of course.
everyone's red flags, beige flags, green flags, whatever you want to talk about. Those are going to be different. But I think that's different from what you're talking about, right? Like,
Yeah. It's I wouldn't necessarily call them flags either. It's
right,
more
right,
of we're all like, for example, if you're we're let's talk about flaws, right? I would say whatever flaw, what's the worst flaw that
yeah,
they have that you can live with, right? Like if they're selfish, if they are arrogant, if they are a smartass, like if those are the things that you hate the most about them and you can live with that and you know how to
mhm,
manage that, I think that's the biggest thing about relationships. And I don't mean this also just romantic. Like these are even friendships because eventually, even though you don't like it, you're like, nah, I don't, this is not great. But then if you can live with it, then I think that shows that things have staying power, right? And that gets to the concept of learning how to connect to somebody because you don't know what the worst thing is of somebody unless on a first date. Granted, where we live, I think you can tell that pretty. Our dating scene is notorious. It's
notoriously bad,
notorious, notoriously bad. I mean,
notoriously bad.
I think they even had a hard time like getting. If I think we talked about this, the
Oh
Love
yeah,
is Blind,
I
Love
know.
is Blind. We're a Love is Blind city, and they had a hard time getting people because I
Yeah,
think it was just like people had too many like things that they didn't want to be on TV. Like the level of pretentiousness here is insane. And
it's hard to
it's
love
not
hate
just
relationship.
and it's not even like it's intellectual pretentiousness, which is even worse. It's not even vanity. Like it's even
Yeah.
worse. And so I think if you can't live with that, and the only way you know is if you're yourself, know what your worst flaws are, and then are able to talk and connect. And again, this can be as easy as do you like the same genre of books? Are you watching the same shows? There's a lot of things that you can do to kind of glean that, I think.
And I think, yeah, all great points. And I think a point you made on our last episode, there's a different, I don't want to say set of rules, but maybe that's it. When we're talking about like work settings and professional settings and personal settings. And so I think, ask all the questions when it comes to dating. Ask all the questions. They're conversation starters. Um, I think it's also, when it comes to dating, I think it's also an opportunity where, unlike maybe work settings, professional settings, other settings, like, you should brag about yourself. You should talk about yourself, right? Like, it's almost like a sales pitch of yourself sometimes. It doesn't have to,
Yeah.
that's a little bit exaggerated, but I think, like, ask all the questions. The biggest question in the place we live is, what do you do? Right? Which we talked about this very early on. It's a question I don't like to ask out the gate because that's the expected one. But like, in a dating scene, ask it. Ask all the questions, because it's not just a way to connect people. It's not just a way to start a conversation. But again, you're kind of digging to be like, what are these? Are we connecting? Like, do we have these flaws that I'm willing to put up with? And one of the things I loved about online dating, and I'm not trying to like sell people on online dating, but this is just what worked for me, is
We're
that,
not sponsored.
well, no, not yet. um, is I loved that it took out the question of the friend zone. Like, it gave me this confidence I didn't necessarily, because I have a lot of friends who are guys. I was a tomboy growing up. I love sports. I can hang with the guys. And listen, whether someone else interprets me wanting to hang out with the guys as flirting with them, that's on fucking them, right? Like, I'm not going to apologize if you thought I was flirting with you. That's God, that's a whole nother episode we can get into. But like,
Oh,
that's not a me.
flirting.
Yeah.
That
That's
is
not a
not
me.
a you problem.
That's not a me problem. But I do think that online dating took out this like weird, like, oh, is this like we're going out just the two of us? Is this a friend thing? Are we just hanging? Like, could there be more here? It's like, no, no, no. I'm going out with you with the sole intent of finding out if we're going to date. Like, online dating just like kind of, I don't know. So it gave me this confidence I didn't have before, or maybe it's not even confidence I didn't have before, but something that I I ended dates that weren't going well with that never crossed my mind to say before that, which was, I had a lovely time, but like the chemistry just isn't here for me. So like, I wish you all the best. But like this, like this isn't, I'm not looking like, I don't think we're going to have another date,
We're not going to
right?
make
Like,
it.
whatever it is.
We're not. We're not getting on the lifeboat off the Titanic.
We're
Just not.
there's gonna be, if we haven't mentioned this before, I'm pretty sure we have, but there's gonna be so many Titanic references. Just
So many.
submersibles in general.
Just submersibles, and it's probably one of the reasons we're going to hell. But that's fine.
Oh, girl,
We
we're
left.
gonna be
We left.
we're gonna be
We left.
driving this submersible to hell together.
Fuck yeah. We laughed too much. Like
Oh,
there was a note
of
made in our
course.
files.
Everything that's coming out is kind of in our column that we had every fucking right to do that. This is a total tangent. But now that we're on a tangent, we do have cocktails tonight.
Oh yes,
And
we
I
do.
did want to point out, so I'm drinking an old fashioned, and we all know I love a theme. So I'm a big, big bourbon girl. Big wine, bourbon, tequila. Those are my things. Those are my drinks. In fact, the 7-hour date that my now husband and I went on was at one of the best bourbon bars, one of the top 5 bourbon bars, one of the top 5 brown liquor collections in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah.
Easy to find.
Is it still? It's still open, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
They survived COVID. They were selling shit off the racks, and we were driving down there. We're like, holy shit, you're selling what? Give it to me. Like, amazing. But
that's how I know we weren't friends then. This is the first I've heard of this, and I'm hurt.
Girl, I have so much bourbon in my house. Do you need to come over and help me drink my bourbon?
I think I help you. I think I help you drink your bourbon.
Oh, that's right. We do. my special stash. Right. That's right. How dare I forget? But I decided tonight, because we also know I love theming my drink with whatever it is we're talking about. An old fashioned is probably what I would most likely order as a cocktail on a first date.
Yeah.
Or any date or any dinner.
Usually I start with an old fashioned unless I know they have a really good margarita.
Oh yeah, I love a good margarita.
And then I mean, I've literally like when I had a work event and literally old fashions. Like I had old fashions all night. And I think in a way, like it's because we're so insecure about it. It's so hard to put yourself out there. And it is like I agree basically with everything Elaine said. Do you know how many times I've had men tell me after the fact that they were like, yeah, we were totally into you and you didn't get it. I was like, because I'm always around, like I'm around like men more. I tend to talk to men more. Like it's just, I'm more comfortable, I think. And like I've had men who's like one person, and I will not say exactly where it was, but it was in a foreign country, and he goes, I followed you in this thing, and I'll tell you where it was after the call, after we're done with the episode. But he's like, I followed you and took pictures of you in this place and you didn't get it. And I was like, yeah, because I'm an idiot.
No, no. That sounds
No, no,
creepy
but
as
that
fuck. No, no, no,
no,
no.
no, 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 no. No, it wasn't like we were part of like an event and like it was anyway, but I'll tell you where it was
Awesome.
because it's even like more like when you know what the place is, like you're gonna be like,
Uh-huh.
are you like is anyway. So I never get it. Because again, flirting. I flirt with everybody. Like I'm just a huge flirt. Like I love it. Love to do it. It's fun. It's fun, it's silly, and it's nothing. Um but yeah, I never got it. And I agree with the friend zone, like online dating kicks you out of that and you become so vulnerable because you're trying to connect with somebody. And I think it goes back to love, right? We always want to be loved. Love is a thing that we need all the time. And I think it's become a biological imperative and somehow we just need it. And then it becomes kind of a fight or flight thing when we're
Mhm.
dating.
Yep.
And it drives up so much anxiety to go, well, this is one person that I'm meeting think I'm worth it? And the real question is not that. The real question is, are they worth it? And
One.
we
Hallelujah. Girl.
praise Jesus. And
Oh, man, I
and
got fun. Woo, shit.
you didn't think I was going to drop that. I didn't know I was going to drop that.
I
I,
lo
I,
I
I, I
goosebumps.
think we put the onus, and it could be that because like we're women and we think of it that way, and men are not thinking of it that way. And we'd love any listener that's like a man that dates would tell us, maybe we're wrong on that. But I think we're constantly looking for worth for other people to prove our worth, and I think it's the same for men in like a dating situation. But the real question is, are they worthy?
Yep.
Unless you're a sociopath or like a horrible person, which most of us are not.
Yeah, thank God.
It's about thinking about, are they am I you have to think of yourself as the main character on the sitcom.
I love it.
You're
Main
the
character energy.
you have to have these kids, they know what they're talking about. You guys know what you're talking about. We need
They
to have
really
main
do.
character energy. Main character energy. Does that person like me? And does that person is worthy of me? And that's it. And I think
I love it.
it's exactly like how they're doing like interviews now. It's like they're not just interviewing you, you're interviewing them. And I
Yes.
think that becomes kind of it I think shifts a little bit of the focus and shifts a little bit of the stress and the anxiety of it because then you're trying to understand them as opposed to putting the onus on you, which I feel like kind of shifts a little bit of the the connection. And then the other thing is, I always found it more interesting when I met people in things I liked. Like it wasn't
Mhm.
bars. Like it was, or like it could be online dating because you're talking about interests. But like running clubs, I hear that's a big thing now. Everybody's meeting
Oh, yeah.
people at running clubs. It's because you're looking for interests, like book clubs. What do you really like? If you really like bourbon, go to tastings, like, right? So I think we've forgotten the art of having interests, right? Because we're always online. We can look up anything. And it's like, again, goes back to our original point in the beginning. Intellectual curiosity opens up so many doors. And I think not only in like work, personal relationships, but also romantic relationships.
Yep.
If you understand your interests, you can bring that out to anybody and you can meet people in places that you don't even.
And the people that you date, or even the person you might end up with, um, or people you might end up with, right? Like, you do you. Um, not every interest, you're not gonna have every interest the same, and that's
Yeah.
perfectly okay, and it's not just interests that are roots in your relationship. You like interests, right? You lead to values, but this is why you ask the questions,
Hmm.
right? Is like, do these flaws that Linda was talking about, like, does their worst flaw, are you willing to put up with that worst flaw because you have the same exact values or because you have the same exact vision of your future, whatever that looks like, where you're like, this person fucking gets me. And I think you made a great point about this too. That's not just with romantic relationships. Like, I say this about my closest friends, like, yeah, my fucking people. That's all. It's like, I just keep
Yeah.
finding myself, this is my fucking person. And like, that can mean so many things. So I know like this episode was inspired by this Bloomberg article, which I did find super interesting. And it did have that like economic twist to it. But I think like, this is why we just lead to conversation, right?
Yeah.
There's so much more to it.
Yeah. And I think, we're at just another tangent. I think we're at a major inflection point in society, right? I think, like you said, our values, our morals, what we think is the truth, how we interpret the truth, how we interpret opinions is changing because of the internet. We have
Yep.
all of the information of the world at our fingertips. Therefore, we are hyper aware of what's going on every place. And we have and I think where this is going to be another episode, but learning the art of the disagreement. Because you're not going to agree with everybody 100% of the time. I've never met somebody that I have agreed with 100% of the time. Including Elaine. We have
Yeah.
I love a comedian that she hates like real bad.
You
Like
can't
real
have it
bad.
one way. You gotta have it.
And
You
I'm not
can't have it the other.
and I'm not going to out him.
No, I won't either.
We won't because we respect people here. Um, so like you're never
We'll name names with love. We will not name
ex-
names with hate.
exactly. And I can't name a name where I know will lead to hate. So I'm just going to keep it to myself. And so I think that's the thing, like learning the art of the disagreement. Again, that will be an episode I think we're going to talk about. But you're not going to agree with everybody all the time, and that's okay. It's okay. However, there are some major things that you have to like, and that's how you know what that red flag, if you think it's a red flag or a flaw or whatever, if it's a thing that and usually it's not, because if it's something that's really intense, like I don't want to bring up like really intense things, but if it's an intense thing you can't live with, then that's what it is, right? You have to walk
Yeah.
away because it'll always come up. It'll always be a thorn in the side.
Right.
And it'll always like move forward. And this I think even works for personal relationships, right? With friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they're a certain way. And I think the key is, and I think one of the things that I think we talked about very early on with dating was that I don't think either of us were the women that only talked about the guys we were dating.
No,
Our life was not centered around our dating life.
never.
Yes, it's fun to talk about. It's, super silly. You're like get to be like a little giddy, giggly, whatever. But it wasn't the only thing we talked about. And we weren't friends in that dating thing, but I'm sure that then we wouldn't have just been talking about it. Right. So I
Absolutely.
think as men and as women, you have to remember that you are still going to be you. You're just going to be you in function of somebody else, and you're still you, and you shouldn't disappear into somebody else. And I think a lot of people sometimes think they need to, and that's where you kind of have the questions that you don't answer because of what they think, but because what they want other people to say.
Yeah,
But,
such a good point.
but all that to say, dating sucks. It's not fun. It's not fun until you decide to have fun about it. Like when I was dating, I was not depressed about it. I thought it was funny.
No.
I thought it was like interesting because I think we're the same. Also, we like to meet people, we like to chat, we like to talk, we like to do all this stuff. And I think that's kind of, if you go about it from like an innocent way, like in a way of like, you know what, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to meet people and I'm going to have fun. And things happen. They always do somehow, because positive energy like brings back positive energy, which is,
Yeah. And I think
silly,
this is
but
a
it's
good
true.
segue. But I think that's a good segue. Do we want to each give like our worst first date story to close it
Yes.
out?
Yes. Let's close out with our first. And mine wasn't even horror. It's just fucking hilarious. It's
Okay.
just fucking hilarious.
You go first then. I
Okay.
told my dating story with my
Okay.
husband. So you kick this one
So
off.
this was when I was on Match. And I was yeah, it was like I don't even remember the year. But basically met this guy and we had like chatted back and forth and he was like, let's meet at this bar. And I was like, have dinner. Okay. I was like, okay, cool. Um, and we meet and we get to talking and the conversation's really flowing, like, very good. And he's talking back and it's not just me like, because I have, I think we all know that I'm just like chatty Cathy. And at some point, my brain goes, wait, he's been talking about his past relationship a little too much. What's up here?
Oh,
And and eventually I find out he's just broke up with his ex-girlfriend who used to be they
three.
were about to get engaged and they broke up. I want to say 3-4 months ago. It was like a 7-year relationship, 7-8 year relationship. But wait, they were still living together.
Okay, two red flags.
Yeah. They were
That's
still
two red
living
flags.
together. Oh, no, just wait. Just wait. It gets better. After the date the next day, he sends me a short story
Oh dear God.
that, that he wrote about her.
Oh, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
A Google Doc, because we had Google Docs then. He sent me a story, a short story that he wrote about her, about how the relationship broke up. The
Oh,
next
honey.
day. Yes.
What did he think that was gonna do?
I don't I don't know. I will say though, people
Wait,
are weird with me. So I think maybe he just wanted to like have somebody to like talk it out with.
can you edit this for me?
Yeah, can you just, can you psychoanalyze like what this means to me and should I get back together with her? Because obviously my every thought is consumed. But it was funny. Like I was not hurt. And it was like we actually had a good conversation. It was a good date. But like it was just and when I was like, "Oh, you're still living with her." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, but we're totally broken up. Like we don't like we have separate rooms." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, buddy." Um
Here, if you have separate rooms, that ain't.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So that yeah, yeah. So that was and I again was not hurt because I was like
yeah.
obviously this isn't going to work out. This is not he's not worthy of me because he's obviously still hung up on somebody else. Um and so that was my worst dating story. And I just think it's still funny because
It's
it's
very
fun
funny.
it's funny in the sense that people tell you who they are and you better
Yeah.
listen.
Uh, uh,
And it would have
yeah.
been on me. It would have been 100% on me if I'd continued that.
Preach. Fucking preach.
So that's
I'm
my worst
gonna
dating story.
I'm gonna give I have to pee so bad.
All
So
right.
we're gonna this right here because
We're going to pause. All right,
ready?
hold on. Do I stop or do I don't know
No,
if I
no,
can
no.
pause. Okay.
Like no,
We'll just leave
I
it
think
and then I'll cut it
you
out.
do like the mark clip. I don't know if you like what is this
Oh,
mark?
yes, yes. Mark clip, add marker. Yes, good call.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry. I
All
was
right.
like, I
No,
could
no,
wait
no,
till
no,
the end.
no, no, no.
Like
No, no,
literally
no.
about to food dance.
So wait, I'm going to add another marker now.
Perfect.
Cool. And we're back. Thank you for
Leave it all. I don't care.
yeah, no. I know if I should have kept talking. Damn it. I should have gone like I should have told another story.
That's all
I
right.
have good ones. I have some good ones, but that one is like the worst one because it's not worse because it's just funny and memorable.
It is. It is. But
Your
well,
turn.
I'll save. Yeah, I'll save what I'm going to say for after mine because I truly believed this. So mine was my first eHarmony date. I got like all excited and was like, we're going to do like an 8 o'clock dinner on a Saturday night type of like, let's go out to like first mistake. I know.
No, I think that's cute. I think that's adorable. Like I've missed that. That's why I'm like reading all these romance novels, like that giddiness of like going out with somebody and having a good time.
Yeah, but at the same time, I was like, it should have just been like a drink at a bar because if shit went sideways, which it did, like I would have an easy out. But I was stuck at dinner. So anyway, so one of my first matches, not my husband. Clearly, this is not the first date with my husband. First date with my husband.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. No, but literally in the same group. So if you've ever done eHarmony, and this is over a decade ago, so I assume it's somewhat similar, but you don't get to you can't peruse like on a Match.com or another website. You can't peruse and say like I want within like give me all the blondes that they were going to match me with, or give me all the 6-footers they were going to match me with. You can only peruse the matches that they've sent you previously. And so some days you'd get 10 matches, other days you'd get 3. There were days I got 0. So it was just, whatever. So my first batch of matches, like my now husband and this worst first date are in that same email. So anyway, so start talking to this guy and, he's cute in his pictures and again, like, I think he was someone who might have answered questions and he's like, oh, ladies would love to hear this. So I'm going to answer it like this. Like, I don't think he was true to himself. But so we set up this date, 8 o'clock dinner on a Saturday night at a restaurant I love. And he shows up late. So I'm like, all right. Yeah. 15 minutes late. I'm like,
That's like worse than a blow dry bar appointment. You're like 15 minutes. You're
I'm
out.
like, where'd you going with this, girl?
Oh crap! Sorry, guys. Sorry. Shit.
No,
I didn't even realize what I was doing.
I was like getting red in the cheeks with that where he was. No. So he's 15 minutes late, which, that's like, we're not talking you missed the metro you wish you had caught and whatever. He rolls in late in a hat. Still not like, raising the red flag. Cargo shorts, not quite raising the red flag yet. Adidas, like the slides that you wear, like on the pool deck, like fucking nubby ones. So, like, maybe 3 strikes, there's 1 red flag. Because I'm like, we're on your fucking date, man. Like, I got dressed up. I put makeup on for this. I blow dried my hair. All right. Like, come on. Put a little effort into it.
You went to the blow dry bar. Which probably didn't exist at the time, but I needed to make that joke to redeem myself from
this is why we're so I'm like, all right, this guy looks like a schlub. Like he's just he looks like an idiot. And I'm like, what the fuck, man? So he rolls in hot. He's just like, oh, the cab just dropped me off. I didn't have a chance to shower or change. And I'm like, fuck is good. What is he talking to? What's
Sir,
happening?
this is a Wendy's.
Oh, God. Like,
Sorry.
he's fucking gone to Wendy's. He's like, I swear to God, it just keeps getting crazier. He's like, I was late because not even I'm sorry I was late. I was late because I thought I had like an air conditioner window unit that I was going to return to Home Depot, and I figured I would do it on the way here, which I'm like, okay, strike that there's a window air conditioner unit that's needed and there's not fucking air conditioning already in your apartment or wherever it is that you live. It's a Saturday. You had all goddamn day to do this. Or tomorrow's Sunday. Like, do it then. I don't know. So he hasn't even sat down at the table yet, and all of this is coming out. Like, what the fuck, man? So here's what this is doing for me, because I was nervous as hell for this date because I hate, again, like dating's kind of stressful. So I'm like, I'm listening to this guy, and I'm like, the fuck am I doing wasting my time with this? Like, I'm not like it's in a weird way, it's like empowering me. And so he sits down, and I'm kind of waiting for him to like take off the hat because we're at kind of a nice restaurant. But like, listen, like I love a good hat. I love dudes in hats. Like I think it's a lot of like men look very attractive in hats. So it wasn't like a terrible thing. But he also didn't look like his pictures online, I was like, Jesus Christ, man. So it's just like one thing after another. We are not. I had been there 15 minutes. I already knew what I was going to order, but I was like, take your time. It's fine. I had ordered myself like a little glass of wine, just to sip on it. Figured we'd order a bottle of something, whatever. So we're sitting there. I already knew what I wanted. The waiter hasn't even come over to ask us what we want to eat. And I knew exactly how much money he made a year. And let me tell you something. I didn't fucking ask him that question. I didn't ask him any question that would even where that response would ever be appropriate. I knew exactly how much money he made a year. So what I did, oh God, I wish you guys could see Linda's face. So what I did.
It's very rare when I'm speechless. I think everybody knows this.
I went to the wine list. Okay, you want to brag about that? And listen, I didn't like, we're not even, I think the bottle was like $60. Like we're not talking anything completely outrageous here. But I went, all right, I was looking for something where it was like super, I don't know how into wine he is. We don't need to make this like a super expensive thing or expensive at all. I'm perfectly happy with ordering a bottle of this, but I'm like, all right, we're going to go to this one because that was the other one I was eyeing, but I thought maybe we'll do the cheaper one. Because I'm like, he clearly thinks that this is something that would impress me. I'm like, no, now I'm just going to use it to my advantage. So I ordered a nicer bottle
of wine.
Right. I ordered the nicer bottle of wine. We order our dinner. And it's just like, the worst stuff happened in the beginning. Yeah, it kind of like hockey sticked in the wrong direction and then just like plateaued there. So it just kind of kept staying there. And, I'm just like, again, I'm kind of getting empowered this whole time where like I'm almost now looking back on it, I'm almost kind of thankful for it because I realized like, wait a minute, fucking cash. Like, why am I nervous about these? Like you said, like, are you worthy of my time? Not even my love, my respect. Like, are you worthy of my fucking time? And this guy was not worthy of my fucking time. But I had proposed the idea of dinner on a Saturday night. So of course I stuck around for dinner. What I didn't do was do the check dance. I am big on first dates. I'm splitting the bill with you. Because here's the other fucking thing. I made more than him when he announced how much money he makes. And you know what I didn't do? I didn't respond with, I don't care. I didn't respond with, I make more than you, or here's how much I make, because nobody fucking cares. And Like, no, like, even in this story, I don't say that because it was any extreme amount of money, but, like, why even fucking say it? Like, it's it's pointless. It's clearly because he thought it was gonna be something of note, and I don't give a shit. Like, I don't give a
But
shit.
and I think that's kind of, again, reading the romance novels that I'm reading, I think there's there's still the thought process about women being obsessed with it. But what's happened to like the economy now is that we make our own money. Like we don't w- women are not staying in marriages because they're the sole breadwinner. S- Some of them are because their husband is the sole breadwinner, is what I mean. But others are not. Others can leave. And I think
Yeah,
that's what makes that money conversation such a big thing for men because they always go two routes. They either go, I want to impress women with the amount of money I'm making, or I'm afraid that they're going to want to take me for all I've got type of thing. So and it's, it's society. I don't think it's like men's fault necessarily. I think
no.
it's how society is being built. But that is a fucking awesome story because I think it
Yeah,
again
it
leads
was
you to their point. Like you couldn't live with whatever had just happened. I don't even know what that was. I think I think you
litany.
lost me. I think you lost me at the like Adidas slides.
It wasn't the cargo shorts or the
It wasn't and
trying
like
to
the
return
cargo
it.
shorts. The cargo shorts, I was like, "Nah," it was the Adidas slide part.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't like. First of all,
What?
everybody wore those in high school
Yeah.
when we were like, yeah, like nobody wore them anymore
No,
after
no,
that. And
no.
then so it just the
It was bad.
slides, the
It was
Adidas
bad.
slides.
It was bad. So, like, but I'm thankful for it because it did empower me and it made me realize, like, no, you got to prove to. I don't need to prove shit to nobody. Like, huh? So that was good. And what was just to show you how to out of touch he was. Um,
There's more?
we get to the end of the date and he's like, I've had a lot of fun. Do you want to go grab a drink after this? And I looked right at him and I said, no. Again, kinda right, like, taking that here's a good way to exit a situation, out of it. "Do you wanna just, like, grab a nightcap or something?" I said, "No. I'm sorry, bud, I'm not feeling the connection here, like, I wish you the best." And I left.
Good
I
for you.
left
For
because
you.
I think we as women also tend to give our time to people. We're more willing to give our time to people that don't deserve it. Whatever that stems from, whatever the reason is that you or just automatically if that's just what you do, and I would do it too. I feel like I just to be the nicer person, like, I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, let's grab one more drink," in, like, most situations, even if I'm exhausted or whatever. But no, I was like, "Ah," and I wasn't mean about it. I just said, "Listen, I'm just not feeling the connection, and I wish you the best, but I think we're good here." And that was it. Like he wasn't mean. He didn't come back at me with messages on eHarmony and like there are certainly horror stories of all of that for sure. And I'm sure we could tell 100 of those. But yeah, I will never forget it. And honestly, from that point on, I was just like, no, this is their fucking tryout. This is not my tryout. I know what I am, who I am, what I deserve, and you are the one trying out. And I hope, and I'm sure when when I went on my first date with my husband, he was probably thinking the same thing about himself and about me, and that's why we work. It's one of
Yeah.
the many reasons we work. But like, I hope he thought the same thing about me.
And I think and you brought up a good point around things. And of course there's horror stories and all that. And not to say that like people were asking for it, but I think there's a certain amount And there's people that take advantage of other people that they deem weak.
Yeah.
And I mean weak in the sense that they project weakness. That doesn't mean you are. That means you want to please that person. And that if you give them like even an inch,
Then
they'll be like, I'm going to burrow my way into that. And I think that conversation for you, like he would have never, like he was like, you gave him no, like, it wasn't like, oh, it's like the being on the hook. Like I'd seen that episode on how I Met Your Mother. I don't think it's enough to like make a reference because we don't really reference that one. It's like being on the hook, right? You're leaving the door open. If you close that door, they know, you know, and you can move on. And I think usually, again, we're not talking about the psychopaths and the sociopaths that like you may come across because that you can't control. But if you can control how you react to someone, say, hey, I'm not doing this. Like for example, the guy that sent me the story, I never responded to the story. And he got it.
good.
He didn't follow up. Like I didn't message and was like, "The fuck are you doing, dude?" Like I think my silence was obvious. Like it was
Yeah.
obvious because he knew what it would be like, right? So and I think you telling that guy to be like, "Hey, we're this is clearly not going where and anywhere." And I think it's always a thing about shooting your shot. I think the guy just tried, honestly, and you were like, "I'm out. Like I don't need this." And that's in the end what you need to do. You need to be very clear about what you want and what you don't want. And I think then in the end, things usually fall in place. Um, but yeah, dating sucked. I did have a good time sometimes. Like it was like fun. I did some fun
Or
things. I met some fun people. Um, but I think the sucky part of it is again trying to connect to somebody. And I think we can come back to the fact that if you're authentic, know what you want, and are very clear to the other person, and remind yourself that you're the one that is worthy, and they have to prove themselves to you. Obviously, don't be a dick about it. um, I think that is, the principles there. And I think that, again, doesn't just serve you in dating, it serves you in personal relationships. Um,
absolutely.
and I think if we get out of our head a little bit, that becomes a little bit more attainable. And with that, we're going longer and longer with
I
our
love it.
episodes
This was
here.
a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, I can talk
It
about this
was a good
forever.
one. I mean, I think we're always better when we even though we have great conversations anyway. But
Always.
all this all this to say, I think that wraps it up. Again, we'll take you into our next episode, but first, again, if you want to share your dating crazy stories, feel free. If you want to email us and ask a question, like happy to, if we can answer it, we will. Um, obviously take anything we say with a grain of salt. Margarita salt preferably. But
Yes.
um that to say is that we have our next episode is the doc is in. So, and we, I think, chatted about this. The last doc is in because it was just so good. But Elaine, take us away. Tell us what that is, and I will tell some like logistical things about it.
Yeah, I got super jacked up. Like that wasn't on the spot. We made a decision. Um, but our next documentary will be The King of Kong, A Fistful of Orders. It is
That's right.
goddamn. You'll just talk about things you never thought would amp you up. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, and
Because if I don't leave it at that, I'm gonna get amped up and I'm gonna spoiler alert. But
indeed. So just to remind everybody, it came out in 2007. It's free on Tubi. So I've never watched this one. I'm really excited. I'm going to be watching this one. So I'll be like you, fellow listener, for the first time. I will keep my what the fucks to a minimum. Obviously, my text to Elaine, because usually when she sends me a rec, my
it's a
first thing
lot
is
of them.
what the fuck. It's a
I
lot of
love it.
what the fucks. So it's free on Tubi, so you can watch it there. Has a 97% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, which does not surprise me because Elaine suggested it. Um, but it is out there. I think it's like 97 minutes or something, like
Yeah,
an
it's a good
hour,
look.
an hour and 19 minutes. So it's quick. Feels free, and we are really excited. So again, we are excited about the next one. We will meet you here next week, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. And with always email us if we have made a mistake, if it wasn't. Obviously, we're not talking to everybody's experience in this one, but and if you want to share us your tricks, and as always, Elaine, sign us off.
Stay interested.